everyone, and I'm excited to be here. And it's terrific for someone like me to come to the other side of the world and come to an event like this. Meet business analysts, project professionals, business women, businessmen from all walks of life, and it's very clear to me. I get to say hello to familiar friends, familiar faces, and of course get to strike up new professional friendships that I've got a hint, I've got a suspicion they'll stick, and I'm looking forward to that. Over the past 2 days, I think we've had an opportunity to engage and connect, an opportunity to listen and learn from each other, and hopefully, just hopefully, we've set ourselves on a path to grow. I'm here in different roles. Certainly I'm here as the chair, the International Global Board Chair of IOBA, but I'm also a BA practitioner in my own right. And just like each of you, I'm always looking to connect and learn. And before I move on, I just want to give you some context about who this fellow is and some context about where I come from and perhaps what drives me. I've lived all my life in Melbourne, in Australia. I'm very fortunate because although I have an Australian accent, I have an Italian complexion. And my grandfather left Italy almost 100 years ago, 90-something years, after World War I, and he landed in Australia. And I'm very fortunate my father settled in Melbourne, because it turns out all these years later, Melbourne just happens to be continually voted as one of the world's most livable cities. And I know I can see some well-travelled people. And I have affirmed last evening over a meal, that Melbourne is one of the world's most livable cities. It's also, I'm very fortunate, that Melbourne is also one of the most passionate when it comes to sport. And I love my sport. And just to prove that, I'm going to take you on a virtual tour. And I'll be walking very quickly, and I want you to keep up with me. So I've arrived at Flinders Street Station in downtown, in the heart of Melbourne. I'll come out of the station, and there immediately to my right is the Yarra River. We won't walk downstream to the west. That's the new developed area called the Docklands. All the major banks are all there. That leads to the Port of Melbourne. I'm going to walk upstream, upriver, and we'll walk very quickly. And within 50 metres, there's these massive row of boat sheds, and all the fit young people are rowing every morning. Olympic champions, some of them are budding champions, and there's always a hive of activity around there, and that's just one sport. We'll keep walking along. Watch out for the cyclists and the joggers, because Victorians love to jog and stay fit. And in the distance, across behind the boat shed, is the Botanic Gardens, beautiful. And you guessed it, there's another walking track. It's called the Tan. And I've measured myself on that 3.7 kilometre track with a steep hill, but we'll ignore that. We'll keep walking, and pretty soon, within 100 metres, 200 metres, is the Melbourne Centre Tennis Centre, the Melbourne Park Tennis Centre. Margaret Court Arena, Rod Laver Arena, home to the Australian Open. There's Wimbledon, Roland Garros, French Open, Flushing Meadows, which is the US Open, and Melbourne Park, which is the Australian Open. Still in the same precinct. We've only walked 400 or 500 metres from downtown. We'll keep walking past the parks, up a little incline, still only about 30 metres away, cross over the road, we come to the Collingwood Football Club. Australian Rules Football Club, their home base, state-of-the-art, world-class facilities, a massive big football ground, a running track around it, and that club there has a largest following in Australia, and either you love them or you despise them. They're a very divisive club. I happen to love them. We'll walk past that, only 50 more metres, and we've only walked about 400 or 500 metres, by the way. Hopefully you're keeping up. There's a purpose-built rectangular stadium. That's brand new, state-of-the-art, home to 2 A-League soccer teams. Melbourne City, which has now been purchased by Manchester City, and the other A-League club, which is Melbourne Victory. It's also shared by the Rugby League and Rugby Union. We'll walk past there, we'll cross the road, but they've implemented an elevated walk path over, and now we're walking over the rest of the tennis centre, and we see Margaret Court Arena, Rod Laver Arena, Hisense Arena, all enclosed. And we look down and there's myriads of outdoor courts. And in summer, you can see young hopefuls trying to get a wild card entry into the Great Australian Open. And we look down, we're looking here, but then you can sense the presence. They're looming in the distance, and you look up and there's the mighty Melbourne Cricket Ground, the Coliseum. And that's why we in Victoria, we get carried away with this precinct. We think we're the sporting capital of Australia. And sometimes we get really carried away. We think we're the sporting capital of the whole world. And the mighty MCG's there. And we'll just have a quick look inside, shall we, and see who we can see. There he is. Must pay our respects to the Master Blaster himself. There he is celebrating, and have a look below there. That's Adam Gilchrist, an outstanding cricketer in his own right. His gloves are right in line where the ball should be going, but the ball's going out to the right, and it looks like, we had a discussion about this before, we think it's a perfectly executed cover drive, maybe a square drive. It's a bit uppish, the ball's a bit high in the air. Don't bother fielding that. That's gone straight to the boundary, 4 runs. But I really like, my favourite photo in this whole presentation is the one next to it. How cool does that man look? Capacity crowd, the MCG's full, that's taken in February. We were discussing earlier, is that mauve, is it purple, or is it pink? Doesn't matter. The complexion of his skin and his looks, the sunglasses. I'm of Italian descent, and I was always thought Italians look smart when they go on their passeggiata, as it's called, at the 5 o'clock walk, and everyone in the village gets dressed up and they go for a walk. When I grow up, I want to look just like him. And that's taken in the commentary box, overlooking a packed MCG for the World Cup cricket final, I believe, or a semi-final, actually, because when you zoom in, we won't talk about the semi-final. Sorry, we'll move on. Australia, for our Canadian friends, Australia beat India. Only just, it was unfair. So we walk past the MCG, we've only walked 2 kilometres from the centre, and we'll walk past and there's more gardens, and we'll probably stop there, but to my right there's a sprinkling of restaurants, and there's a really good restaurant. They serve, this is true, fine Indian cuisine. 2 brothers, sons of an Indian chef, opened it up, and they've called their own restaurant 2 Fat Indians. And I think that's hilarious, because in my whole life, I've never seen a fat Indian in my life. All very lean and superbly fit. So, with that insight into there's one other thing I want to tell you. Although clearly I love Melbourne, and I'm lucky, it's one of the world's livable cities. Not the best city, it just happens to be livable. Although I love Melbourne and I've lived there all my life, I have an affinity with the country. And I was lucky, again, my grandparents, both sets of grandparents, on my mother's side and my father's side, lived on the land when they migrated to Australia, and they became farmers, and they moved to the fruit bowl of Victoria, our state. Fertile land, and they were orchardists, pear trees, apricot trees, those sorts of things, and tomatoes. And synonymous, the area is called the Goulburn Valley, and the nearest town is Shepparton. Now it's a city in its own right, but it's Shepparton. And synonymous with the area is the Furphy water tank. It's a mobile water tank, about so big. I've got a photo in a moment. It's on wheels and it's towed by a tractor. I believe in the old days it was towed by a horse. Every Furphy water tank has the maker's mark stamped in the end of the cylinder. J. Furphy and Sons, Shepparton. Every Furphy water tank, and you can Google it later on, every Furphy water tank has the same verse stamped in the steel. Good, better, best, never let it rest to you. Good is better, you better, best. I've got a photo of it, and I went on one of my long cycling rides, another passion of mine. And that's me there on your left, pointing to the verse. Stamped in the steel, forged into my psyche from when I was a kid. Good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better, your better, best. So, 2 passions of mine. Only 2, I can share others another time. Sport and continual improvement. So with those 2 passions, or the continual improvement and sport in mind, let's move on to the past 2 days. That's a photo from last year, but it's this year's program. So with someone who happens to be chair of the board of International Board of IOBA, with a passion for learning, 30 years of experience, I've run businesses and all those sorts of things, passionate about learning, I can hear some questions being framed. What does Michaell learn from a conference like this? Good, better, best. He's always pushing himself. What is he learning? What does Michaell learn? What does Michaell take back to Australia? What does Michaell think about in that 14-hour flight back home? What does Michaell do differently tomorrow? And as I've been maturing in my own career, I've been thinking about what I want to do, and I've been moving more and more into coaching and mentoring. And the people I coach and mentor ask me these sorts of questions all the time. Quick as a flash, I strike back with my own questions. And I ask, let me ask you a question. What did you learn out of this conference? What do you take home? What will you do differently on Monday? Easy questions to ask. Not so easy to answer, are they? What are you going to take back? What are you going to do differently? The answer, you need to scratch beneath the surface and start to ask some other more deep questions. Like, why did you come in the first place? Why are you here? What did you hope to achieve? Good questions to ask. Certainly for me, the opening, we heard about change is constant, agility, differentiators. We need to differentiate. We had, I have reliable feedback because I couldn't go to all, I must acknowledge Ashish. Clearly he thought I had too much energy. Clearly he thinks that because he had me back-to-back meetings yesterday, back-to-back meetings today. But it was a good effort, but you didn't prevail. I've still got the energy. So I'm reliably informed because I couldn't attend all the forums all the year. I hear there was great engagement, great questions, and people have a passion to understand what is my role in the changing environment as a BA? How does agility affect me? Should I have deep domain experience or that generic jack of all trades? Great questions, great insights by the speakers. Back to you. Those questions, some of them are really difficult to answer because maybe we're asking the wrong questions. What problem are we trying to solve? Why are you here? What is the definition of a good conference for you? What are you going to share with your colleagues when you go back? Again, what are you going to do differently? And I'm reminded of my sporting interest. I'm on the start line, and when that gun goes off and I take off, is it a sprint or is it a marathon? It doesn't need to be a fast sprint, nor does it need to be a long, painful marathon. And as you're going, where am I running to? Fortunately, a lot of things are intuitive and you just go along with the flow. But as you're going along, what happens if the finish line was there, but you didn't realise it? And you're running. These are questions we need to ask ourselves. I ask myself that all the time. So what problem are we trying to solve? Familiar terms. Baseline yourself. What is your current situation? Where are you at? Interesting, we do this, we ask ourselves these sorts of questions, or our stakeholders, we ask our stakeholders these sorts of questions all the time in our careers. As business analysts, we do a current situation assessment and a future goals. Even as executives, and we've still got some of the executives still in the room, they may not consider themselves BAs, But they do a current situation assessment, what's the opportunity, what's the gap, all the time of a BA. And in fact, if you go to chapter 9, it's tragic, I know the chapter's almost off by heart. If you go to chapter 9 of the BABOK, it's got the underlying competencies in there. Analytical thinking, problem solving, creative thinking, leadership, communication skills, written, oral, teaching, learning, all the underlying competencies that BAs around the world say we need in our careers. Well, we're so lucky that the business analysis profession is one of the few professions you can apply those same skills on yourself. Interesting. As a board member, and I have my colleagues here from the board and the senior leadership team, I can tell you, I can assure you that these same questions that I'm suggesting you ask yourself, we asked ourselves not too long ago. And the IABA industry itself, the IABA entity, asked these same questions of itself. So I am practicing what I preach what we practice what I preach. In 2008, when I first joined as a volunteer in Australia, the vision of IABA at the time was to create the world's leading association for business analysis. And the mission for IABA at the time was to define and maintain the standards for the practice of business analysis and the certification of its practitioners. That's why IABA existed, apparently, to define the standards, to create a BABOK. That's why it existed. In 2010, I joined the International Board, and by 2012, it was apparent to me and my colleagues that the global business analysis community was showing signs that perhaps it was losing its way. And IABA itself, as we know, perhaps IABA itself was showing signs of losing its way. So we, dare I say it, we had the courage to engage and connect with ourselves, engage and connect with each other, to listen and to learn. Why does the IABA exist? Why do we do what we do? Why are we BAs? We ask the same questions of ourselves that I'm suggesting you ask of yourself. And the outcome, when we asked that question, was that strategic plan. But before I get there, when we ask those questions of ourselves and we engage with BAs, and I've been engaging with BAs here, and you know who you are because I've been engaging with you and doing my best, despite Ashish locking me up in those pleasurable meetings, by the way. They were good fun, excellent fun. When I engage with BAs around the world, and I ask, why do you do what you do? And some themes come out. They enjoy talking to people. We call it stakeholder engagement. They enjoy the intellectual challenge of solving problems, analytical thinking, the complexity. They enjoy that. BAs, we enjoy that. Tell me if I'm wrong. Then we enjoy facilitating a solution. We don't need to be necessarily the expert, the deep dive expert, although there is a lot of discussion about deep domain knowledge. We can facilitate and define solutions. Then we get joy in seeing that solution get implemented and making a difference and our stakeholders deriving some benefit. And when I asked some BAs, and I asked some people yesterday and last night, how does that make you feel? They didn't need to answer because I could see the smile came on their face, their eyes lit up. That makes me feel good. Implementing solutions, making a difference. That strategic plan evolved. And then I can talk about that a little bit, and I'll talk about that a little later before I come back to you. And when I ask a really good question, and I've made a career out of asking this question, and as BAs, I think we all ask this question, why that strategic plan? And our why, the old vision, the mission, gone. Our new why, our new core purpose is to unite a community to create better business outcomes. or as I like to say it, and I want you to remember it as to unite a community of professionals to create better business outcomes. Or as I also say, not only create, I say let's demand better business outcomes. Let's leapfrog. Let's take that leapfrog and accelerate this. And why wait 10, 20 years? Let's do it in 2. Let's demand better business outcomes. Because if the business analysis community, if you don't demand it, who's going to demand it? A project manager? All they care about is on scope, on budget, and they don't care about the solution. The benefit necessarily, no disrespect to project managers. We need them to drive on time, on budget. So let's demand better business outcomes. So, when I look at the strategic plan and where it's going, what do I see? I see a really simple, well, what do I actually say? Let me remind myself. What do I actually say? I say that strategic plan is brilliant. It's a brilliant strategic plan because it's simple. It's brilliant because it makes sense. And it's brilliant because the strategic plan supports a core purpose that resonates with BAs around the world. And when BAs hear that phrase, unite a community of professionals to create better business outcomes, I know they smile within because they've told me. And I get that sense. And that strategic plan is brilliant because not only it resonates with us as BAs, frankly, and we've heard Alan and Stephen, our executive, and Kathleen, what they've told us, that strategic plan, frankly, is opening doors. Not just within here, to the wider, broader business community. That's exciting. All because we had the courage to say enough is enough, stop, reflect, listen, learn, and had the courage to actually do something about it and engage with ourselves and with each other. So, a quick walkthrough, because that why, I'd like to explain the so what for each pillar. A collaborative chapter model. We had questions yesterday. What's the so what? That's the intent of that question. So what does that mean to me in India? Well, what it means is what works, and we heard Kathleen say it, what works in Canada and what works in Australia, what works in New Zealand may not work in India. Go figure. Oh, culture's different. And you go, really? We knew that a long time ago. Finally, we've got a team. And because we've got a strategic plan that's going to take the extra, to have the courage to engage and perhaps get that feedback we need to hear. And the so what will be is maybe, just maybe, and this is just maybe, because I'm only a volunteer like the rest of a BA like the rest, maybe we have an innovative new model that works for the Indian community. Maybe we have a presence and employees of IABA in the country. Maybe. Who knows where it'll end up? But it certainly won't be the same model that the McDonald's one-size-fits-all franchise model that propagates around the world. If it works, why not? But if it doesn't, let's change it. So what you will see in the weeks and months ahead, because community is important, I don't need to tell this community how communities are important and families are important. You will have a home to go to. You'll have an environment to collaborate with. That's the so what for a collaborative chapter model for this community and all the other communities. And maybe as part of that, IABA will come to you, and you might have to drive 300 or 400 miles or kilometres to get to IABA. There's all sorts of innovation that can happen. Value-added relationships. All of us work for employers, probably, most of us. And most of us probably get a sense that our executives don't understand what we do. Perhaps they don't value what we do as business analysts. So the IABA Industry Association on our collective behalf is going to go knocking on the doors of the executives. And we will do our best to explain the value of business analysis. And what's the so what? Well, maybe they'll invest more in you. The so what? Maybe instead of when you want to come to Ashish's next BA conference and you have to have the courage to fill out the paperwork and say, can I get some time off from my normal work to attend this conference? Maybe what they'll be doing is they'll be ringing you. The executive will ring you and say, hey, I hear the BA conference is coming to Bangalore again. Are you intending to go? Is anyone from you or anyone in your team going? Yeah, I have been a practitioner, and part of me still is. And I know what it's like to have to go and ask for permission to go to something that is, is just common sense. How dare I even have to ask? Maybe they'll ring you up, and then what's more, they'll put it on you and say, and what's more, I hear that these characters from overseas are coming, and I hear they're quite passionate, and I hear some of the themes are around learning and evolving and leading. Can you go to that conference? Can you listen and learn? And can you come back and book time with my executive assistant? And I want you to explain to me how our organisation can learn, evolve and lead. That would be powerful when they ask us to do that, instead of us having to ask humbly for their permission. And that's our intent. Leverage a network of complementary associations. Business analysis doesn't live in a vacuum. We've got complementary other professions, change management, all sorts of professions. And to me, it's always seemed ludicrous, and it seems ludicrous to many of you here probably. IABA goes knocking on the corporate door and says, we're from Business Analysis Association, we can help you. The very next day, the Change Management Institute goes knocking on the door, hey, we're from the Change Management Institute, we can help you. The Project Management Institute, we're from the Project Management Institute, don't listen to them, we can help you. No, the IABA's core purpose, I said it before, shall I say it again? To unite a community of professionals to create better business outcomes. So it makes sense that we have another corporate pillar, a strategic pillar, that says let's leverage this. Let's work together, let's form partnerships. And Alan, who's sitting in the front row, knows I'm just itching and want to invite him up on stage, but it's not going to happen today. I want him to announce who the memorandums of understanding are, who we're partnering with. And what it means to you, I suspect, when the announcement comes out, those people, perhaps not in this room, but in other parts of the world, who are wondering, is business analysis still relevant? Whether you call it that or you call it something else, and is my role still going to be relevant? And is IABA itself, in the face of competition, is it still relevant? Well, I suspect when these announcements are made, you'll be able to smile and say, hey, business analysis is relevant. IABA still has a place because these iconic organisations are endorsing what we do and they recognise what we do, and likewise we're recognising what they do, and together we're going to unite and strive to get better business outcomes. A gold global standard. We've had many meetings with Ashish and other executives, and it's clear, and the BA practitioners have been asking questions around what certifications, and I remember on the very first day, I can see him there, he asked that question, sorry, I don't know your name, but yeah, it's okay, asked a question about certifications. Well, strategically, IABA will be, with your help, because you're part of IABA, those of you who are members, part of IABA, with your help, we will work out what gold standard certification really is and what it means to the corporations we work with and you're employed by, and the endorsed education providers here who deliver the education. We'll work with all these folk to work out what does gold standard mean, and is CBAP, I'm a proud CBAP person, is CBAP it, or are there levels? And should we inject a hint of competency into that certification? These are all to be worked out in the near term and rolled out in the medium term. Something to look forward to. And what will that mean to you? Those of you who are sitting on the fence, not sure, will I do it, won't I do it? Climb on board, get certified. The more of the community are speaking the common language, the more we can all, again, stand shoulder to shoulder, side by side, raising the standard and dragging everyone with us, and let India lead the way. And I think you should applaud a bit louder on that, because I heard a man this morning say, and I heard it at the panel again, let's leapfrog. He talked about the digital world, and And he said, let's leapfrog that. Don't wait 20 years. Let's do it now. Our time is now. And finally, the fifth pillar, which is about encompassing the depth of this thing called business analysis. Our colleagues that we work alongside or we know, financial analysts, legal analysts, business intelligence, business process, business architecture, general manager, whatever the title. Perhaps they are within. Strategically, we're going to try and encompass those folk. Not just the profession of business analysis, but also the folk who display the disciplines of business analysis. Figure that out later on. We can talk about that another day. Is business analysis a profession or is it a discipline, a series of disciplines? Let's not go there here and now. So, what have we learnt over the last 2 days? You know where I'm going with this. What have you learnt? And I know folk have to go, so don't be embarrassed because I know there's flights to catch, etc., and it's getting 5 o'clock. So if you need to go, just go. So, we baseline ourselves. I'm at the starting line. And we ask those questions, deep, meaningful questions like, where am I at? What do I hope to learn? All those sorts of things. What am I good at? What am I not so good at? What am I doing today? Who am I today? Where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? And I heard questions during the panel session. I snuck out of Ashish's meeting. I heard some questions, I caught the trailing end of it, and there were questions, really good questions about, should I be a domain specialist or should I be a jack of all trades? And the folk in the audience were asking the wise gentlemen, and there was a lot of wisdom up on stage. And I thought, when I grow up, I want to be more like them, like Sachin Tendulkar and one of those guys, because there's a lot of wisdom there. And you were asking them. I say, ask yourself, what do you want to be? What do you want to be known as? Do you want to be known as a domain specialist? Because there's nothing wrong with that. Or do you want to be known as a generalist? And you're looking at one here. And in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with being a generalist. It's about who you are and who you want to be. And yes, we can ask these guys, and they'll do their very best to give considered, well-structured, well-thought-out answers. But it's their answers and how they see the world. And there's nothing wrong with any of those answers. And I applauded some of them. And those of you who were, I was sitting at the very back, I started, clapping very loudly because it made sense. And at times I was clapping twice to contradictory answers in my mind because that made sense as well. Because it's what you want to do. You can ask them for guidance. And you create your own gap analysis. And can I go a step further? The only thing I'll tell you to do, those of you with smartphones, as soon as this is over, book some time in with yourself. Book some time on Monday, if you have the courage, with the most important stakeholder in this room. Book the time with yourself. Have the courage to book some time with yourself on Monday, because I know what will happen. You'll go back to work on Monday, there'll be all these emails and you'll be consumed by this and consumed by that, and all of a sudden Thursday and Friday and all these things will be a distant blur. But I know what the smart people will be doing. I know what Ashish will be doing. He'll do a post-implementation review. He'll go through the lessons learnt. He'll reflect. He'll think about what went well, what didn't go well. He'll take all these things on board and he'll start planning for the future. And he'll make time with all these stakeholders, all of them. And he'll listen to all your feedback. And he'll go out proactively and solicit other feedbacks. So I'm encouraging, and perhaps I'm telling you. Don't like to tell people what to do. Perhaps I'm telling you. You make the the appointments with the most important stakeholder to you, and that's yourself. And on projects, if your stakeholder avoids you and says, "Oh no, Ashish, I know you, you know me, you know what I want. I don't need to meet you. You define the requirements and go away and implement that CRM. You know what I want, implement it." Ashish would never do that, never accept that. He'll say, no, you're my stakeholder, you're my sponsor, I need your input. Oh, no, you know what I want. So the compromise might be, I'll define the requirements, but I will engage you and get the requirements validated. And if they don't, Ashish will use every bone in his body, every bit of his own initiative to make sure he finds a time with his stakeholder and gets that sign-off. And if he can't get that sign-off because it's beyond his control, he'll escalate it. He'll escalate it to the managers and they all work it out. And then there'll be a risk management meeting about should we move forward without sign-off and what have you. But what do we do with the most important stakeholder in our lives? We choose to ignore ourselves. Oh, it'll work out. And we're lucky generally because our initiative takes us where we need to go. And we sort of luck on some roles. But how many of us actually plan our career? And I mean really plan. For example, we do our gap analysis, and what I'm suggesting, we leverage our strengths. What am I good at? What am I passionate about? I enjoy stakeholder engagement. I enjoy talking to people. Maybe I should leverage that. Maybe I should try and get better at that. I'm already good. Maybe I should get better. Yes, develop new skills. Maybe I heard something on this conference that I might try. And become a better version of me. There, we have a plan. Trick, that's a trick, that's not a plan. If you started nodding, I'm not happy. That's not a plan. That's a wish list. It's milestones at best. It's like going into Ashish's example, I made that up, the CRM, and you go to your stakeholders and your steering committee and say, oh, the CRM, I'm going to implement it in by December 21st. And you present that, three milestones. Will they approve the funding with 3 milestones? I don't think so. That looks like a wish list. Milestones at best. And yet, after performance reviews and some so-called reflection, the best we can come up with, and I know this because I've engaged hundreds of BAs around the world. When I talk to them about their development plans and the feedback they get from their stakeholders and what do they do about it, at best what BAs do is, I want to get certified by June 2016. And the development plan has 1 bullet point. Okay, I exaggerate. 2 bullet points. I want to go on some training. 3 bullet points. I want to learn Agile. That's it. 3 bullet points in their plan. Is that a plan? No. What I'm encouraging you to do is go the next step. And again, I use this word a lot. Have the courage to put a plan together. Activities, tasks, dates that align to the milestone, that align is traceable to who you are and who you want to be and your goals and objectives. You put a 90-day plan for yourself, 3 months, and then put another 3-month plan. And if that's too challenging, put a plan for a plan together. I will commit to putting a plan together in 3 months. And in that first plan will be, I will meet with myself every week. If that's too hard and you meet with yourself and you think, oh, I don't know what to think, put in your plan. Seek out a coach. Seek out a mentor. Seek out some folk who are, in your mind, successful. What did they do? Put that in your plan. Have the courage and the persistence to deal with yourselves. And then, when you put all that together, with milestones and what have you, it starts to form a development plan. So when you ask me, what did I learn out of this? I put it back on you. What do you learn? And what will you do differently when you go back on Monday? Learn, evolve, lead. So I will pick someone in the middle. if you go back and have the courage to learn, to reflect, learn, challenge yourself and evolve, and then show some personal leadership, even if no one else knows, you show some personal leadership and move forward, and the person next to you does that. You have the courage to do it. The person next to you does that. And the people in the front row, they do that in their own careers. And even if you're already a high achiever in your own mind, you can still do better. And our executives do that, and everyone else does that, and I go back home and I do it, and the person next to me at home does that. Maybe if we're all showing that leadership, together we can take the industry forward. And together we, dare I say it, India, will do that leapfrog and lead the world. It starts with you. And if we do it together, IOBA will then deliver on its core purpose. And I won't say it again. It will deliver on its core purpose, its path forward and its destiny. I will say it again, to unite this community to create better business outcomes. Starts with you. Learn, lead, learn, evolve. Thank you. Learn, evolve, lead. And on that note, I'll leave it there. Thank you for your attention. And if we have time, I'm happy to answer any question about anything, and I'll do my very best to answer. But I'm not sure if we've got time for questions.
Yeah, sure.
Michael, you won't be surprised if I just stood up and asked you a question, right?
Well, I've been to 3 sessions, and you've stood up every time so far. Yeah. So I'll be disappointed if you didn't ask.
Okay, so here I go. I fulfill your wish out there as well. So, Michael, one last time, and thank you very much for the audience for bearing with me for all my questions. Okay, so because this is the end of the day. So here I just want to ask one question.
Yes.
I think Stephen mentioned that yesterday. Okay, and I think you mentioned it today. And I think I've seen that as a theme throughout, where you've talked about one size does not fit all, right?
Yes.
And I agree. I mean, from the perspective of IIBA, you've seen the implementation of chapters, and you've realized one size does not fit all. But when you had one size, you have a standardization that is, applied across geographies everywhere. But now when you say one size does not fit all, and we become flexible, it'll probably start to work in local areas across different geographies. But how are you going to ensure that the same high level of standards are maintained? When you make it flexible, are you not going to dilute the standard?
Yeah, well, we're a community and we hold ourselves accountable. The Indian community will hold each other accountable, and the standards will work itself out. That's a simplistic answer, but in some respects, it's a fabulous answer, because we are professionals, and we know when we're kidding ourselves. We know when we look at each other in the eye whether we're genuine or not. And if our colleagues aren't genuine, if our colleagues aren't maintaining the right standards, we'll vote with our feet. We won't turn up to those events. So if we want prosperous events, we will need to unite and not necessarily be disrespectful, but maybe sometimes we need to be firm and encourage those people. Perhaps this is not your forum, yeah. and we will create that environment. The collaborative and the one size fits all goes down to the business rules that in India they just seem silly that are created in Canada. These rules fit Canadian law, but in India the law is different. So, and what seems legal in India may seem strangely almost crazy in Canada, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not sure if I answered your question. You happy with that answer? Not really.
I think that's fine, yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, more questions. By the way, some folk asked me, is this your first time in India? And I said, yes, but I've been here many times before. and they look at me funny, and I say, this is physically my first time in India, but through the magic of television, the magic of cricket, I've lived many hours in Mumbai and Chennai, and can't wait to see the dust bowl and the spinning carpet mats of when I grew up, and the Indians had those Aussies bamboozled with spin. Anyway, let's move. Next question, we're ready.
Good evening. So it was a very interesting and valuable session. It was just, I can take this as a retrospect of what we have learned the 2 days. So I have just one question. Is there an inheritance that is happening to a BA role, the role of a business analyst, where the IT industry has given birth to different analyst roles like BPM analyst, BI analyst, and ERP analyst. So I just wanted to understand the difference between a business analyst and the inheritance to the other roles which have generated over the years. So also, it might be some technical also. What the industry wants, whether BPM specialists to convert to a business analyst, or a business analyst learn BPM or BI over the years. So this might be the discussion in many enterprises or many training centers, but I just wanted to put it open and transparent.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it's an interesting question. I think I caught a bit of it in the panel, and it's along the lines of, do we need a domain specialist versus generalist? And the answer was yes. You know, is it one or the other? The answer is yes, we need both. Is a business intelligence specialist a business analyst? Is a business process specialist a business analyst? Is a business analyst those things? Is a financial analyst? You know, what is the role of a BA, and how broad is it and how deep is it? Is that your question?
Yes.
And what's the difference between them?
Because earlier in the yesteryears, we had a dependency on the domain, like finance, healthcare, manufacturing. But now we do have a dependency on the technology as well.
Thank you.
So thereby giving 3 pillars to business analysis, which is good in one sense, but might be confusing for some BAs where they understand that, okay, I'm not a BPM analyst, so I'm not going for that. But it also has analysis within that. It also has requirements, if you call workflows, or if you, when you take a BI, then that also has, even reporting requirements also has a lot of drill down requirements within that. So
well, I think we get the genesis of your question. Thank you. So the answer, and I'll be very, very succinct. The answer is business analysis is just a word. The BABOK has many activities, tasks, techniques that encompass everything one can think of in our current understanding of this thing called business analysis. So all those disciplines, domains, whatever you want to call them, and I know that those words mean different things to different people, BABOK covers all of that, and our industry association, of which we're all part of, it believes all those roles belong in this broader thing called business analysis. And within that, we'll have different perspectives, different viewpoints, different mindsets, but all those things in the BA-BOK are applicable to all those roles. That's the short answer. It's a pretty long answer, but it's a short answer. And
Michael, if may I interrupt now, please. We have people to catch the flights.
Yeah.
So it's time up. I think we need to probably just take maybe one last question quickly. I hate to do that, and I'm sure all IIBA leadership has hated me to do that for the last 2 days. But I have to do that because there are other people who need to catch flight, and especially Frank, I know he's come, he's a very short notice. So if you can, please.
Short questions and a quick answer.
Yeah. You're talking about the interesting side of learn,
Evolve, lead, yes. Learn, evolve, lead, yes.
Learn, evolve, lead, that was an interesting perspective. But just one aspect is learning, we say, is a continuous process,
yes.
a continuous journey.
Yes.
So maybe we learn as we evolve, and we also learn as we lead.
Absolutely.
So instead of talking about 3 distinctive phases, what are your thoughts on that, wherein learning is a continuous process and not just as...
Well, here's the thing. I wrote down in my notebook, and I talk to myself all the time, because I'm continuously learning. And I said, after 30 years of doing this in a myriad of roles, business owner, business developer, HR, recruiter, BA, bit of PM, change management. All these roles, I say to myself, one day, maybe one day, and now I'm chair board, maybe one day I'll get good at this. Because in my mind, I'm not that good. Good, better, best. I'm never going to let it rest. To my good, whatever, however I define it, is better, and my better is the best I can be. It's continuous. Yeah,
Thank you, Michaell.
let's applaud
Thank
that.
you very much.